78 years ago, in the aftermath of the Second World War, the nations of the world made a solemn commitment to save future generations from the horror and the suffering of war. Through the United Nations Charter, these nations accepted a shared mandate to foster peace and promote fundamental human rights, to promote social progress, and to ensure that there's a better standard of life for all. And yet, as we gather here, much of humanity is confronted by war and conflict, by want and hunger, by disease and environmental damage and disaster.
The world over today, hundreds of millions of people are besieged by anxiety about their present and future security, dignity, and prospects of well-being. Many are victims and witnesses of present assaults of many, and many more are afraid of future violations of their most fundamental expectations.
Mr. President, the world today is overcome with the overlapping challenges of war, global economic uncertainty, climate change, and food insecurity. The cost of war, be it in the eastern part of the DRC, or the heart of the Sudan, or the war between Russia and Ukraine, has at its best led to the displacement of innocent women and children.
There are growing concerns about the proliferations of non-state armed actors, threats of nuclear escalations, and extreme climate conditions. These challenges continue to serve as obstacles to our quest for a safe and peaceful world. Reaching the 2030 vision is to ensure that the journey is secure through accountability and mutual understanding. Liberia is committed to the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. They are in line with our flagship National Development Plan.
Africa. In the aftermath of the Second World War, nations gathered in an attempt to rebuild their war-torn societies. A new global system was born. And this great body, the United Nations, was established as a symbol and protector of the aspiration and the finest ideas of humankind. Nations saw that it was in their own interest to help others exceed the rubbles and wasteland of war. Reliable and significant assistance allowed countries emaciated by war to grow into a strong and productive society. The period was a high water mark for trust in global institutions and the belief that humanity had learned the necessary lessons to move forward in global solidarity and harmony.
Président, 78 ans après la création de l'ONU, un cycle sans fin de crise continue d'assombrir l'aspiration et l'horizon de la paix durable entre les nations et au sein des nations. Les multiples crises de solidarité, crise sécuritaire, crise humanitaire, crise sanitaire, crise climatique, crise géopolitique, alimentent les sentiments de défiance à l'égard des institutions et mécanismes internationaux. En effet, de façon patente, le système de sécurité collective et indivisible prôné par la Charte des Nations Unies apparaît comme une fiction dans de nombreuses régions du monde, en proie aux soubresauts de la guerre, notamment en Afrique, où la région du Sahel, la Corne de l'Afrique, la région des Grands Lacs sont devenus de véritables épicentres de l'instabilité. Dans la plupart de ces régions, la prédation des ressources naturelles constitue une source importante de conflictualité au point qu'elle devienne une véritable malédiction pour les pays qui les possèdent.
I do not need to employ any hyperbole, nor find any fancy words to state the reality of the situation humanity currently faces. Our world is not a happy place today. Wherever we look, and in whichever area of our lives to which we turn our attention, there is unhappiness, distrust, and loss of confidence in the structures that have guided the governance of the world since the end of the Second World War, nearly 8 decades ago. Mr. President, the theme chosen for this meeting is rebuilding trust and reigniting global solidarity, accelerating action on the 2030 Agenda and its sustainable development goals towards peace, prosperity, progress, and sustainability for all. The choice of the theme implies that there's general acknowledgement that things are not what they ought to be in our world. The mutual trust among nations that is required to ensure harmony has considerably diminished. The cohesion that we need to build the peace and prosperity of our societies is disintegrating and nearing Cold War lows. We do not seem to have any common values on which we can all agree, nor common goals to which we all aspire. The fault lines are not just between poor and rich, or the South and North, or the developed and developing countries. Even within well-established and rich countries, the tensions over trade, climate, political boundaries, and geopolitical spheres of influence are palpable. Long-held definitions are being challenged, and sacred truths and beliefs are being questioned or discarded outright. And in some instances, the deliberate peddling of blatant untruths has become acceptable. This organization, the United Nations, under whose auspices we, the nations of the world, are gathered for the annual review of the world, was established in the belief that our common humanity would be the overriding consideration in dealing with the problems that would invariably arise when we deal with one another.
This is also the place to broach a question of paramount importance to the Democratic Republic of Congo and also of prime importance for building peace in the Great Lakes region. I'm referring to the withdrawal of the United Nations Mission for Stabilization in the Democratic Republic of Congo, MONUSCO, the withdrawal of MONUSCO from our territory, following a presence of more than 2 decades by the UN. It's time for my country to fully take its destiny in hand and to become the main protagonist of its own stability. We are grateful to the international community and to the United Nations for their support and their partnership. But we are also aware that the phased withdrawal of MONUSCO is a necessary stage to consolidate progress that we have already achieved. Nonetheless, it should be deplored that the peacekeeping missions that have been deployed in various forms for 25 years in the Democratic Republic of the Congo have not been able to stop rebellions and armed conflicts that have torn apart the DRC and the Great Lakes region, nor have they succeeded in protecting the civilian populations. Therefore, the phased, responsible, and sustainable withdrawal of MONUSCO, which was announced in 2018 and whose transition plan was adopted in 2021, is that planned withdrawal an anachronism given the changes in the political, security, and current social contingencies? It is thus illusory and counterproductive to continue to cling to maintaining MONUSCO to reestablish peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and to stabilize it.
Bilateral interventions, to which Rwanda contributes actively in various places, can provide a rapid response to a crisis situation. But to have a lasting effect, the need to pave the way for multilateral engagement and international political progress. No matter the amount of troops deployed, the mindset should be to get results which serve the interests of the people on the ground.
Mr. President, the need to reform global financial institutions is of essence to unlock funding for developing countries. The current exclusionary architecture, dominated by a few states, is failing to deliver the requisite resources for countries to finance their developmental priorities and other pressing health and environmental challenges.
Do we have the necessary political will to choose the global partnership over geopolitical competition? Are we prepared to work together towards a promising age of shared prosperity? Are we also committed to working together to serve our planet and to meet the aspiration of over 8 billion people? The uncomfortable truth is that we are increasingly witnessing policy choices that escalate tensions, threatening the peace and stability of the world.
We will also envisage infusing the working methods of the Council to instill transparency, accountability, democracy, and ultimately renewed legitimacy. Climate change. Mr. President, our collective pursuit of sustainable development confronts the triple planetary crises of pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss. Despite contributing minimally to these crises, Sierra Leone remains intensely vulnerable to their repercussions, a reality compounded by our limited capacity to cope.